Welcome back to our channel, your premier destination for the deepest dives, most exclusive insights, and thrilling breakdowns of the glamorous, scandalous world of daytime television. Today is a magnificent day to unpack the explosive drama unfolding on our favorite soap opera, so grab your favorite beverage, settle into a comfortable spot, and let us explore the breathtaking twists waiting for us in Monte Carlo. The glittering, sun-drenched coastline of Monaco has always served as a breathtaking backdrop for some of the most iconic, romantic, and heart-stopping moments in the history of the Forrester family. For Steffy Forrester Finnegan, the Mediterranean paradise is supposed to be a sanctuary, a desperate escape from the suffocating corporate warfare and personal betrayals currently ravaging Los Angeles. With the catastrophic fallout of Hope Logan Spencer's shocking defection to Logan Creations, the agonizing failure of Eric Forrester's highly anticipated haute couture return, and the relentless, exhausting feud between the Forrester and Spencer dynasties, Steffy booked this trip to Monte Carlo seeking peace. She desperately needed to clear her mind, reset her spirit, and, most importantly, reaffirm her profound love for her husband, John Finn Finnegan, far away from the toxic environment of their hometown. Steffy's plan for this European getaway was beautifully simple and deeply romantic. She intended to transform her necessary business trip into a breathtaking celebration of love, specifically choosing the historic Monaco church where she and Finn shared their miraculous, tear-jerking reunion in 2022. That sacred sanctuary, with its towering stained glass windows, ancient stone pillars, and echoing halls, represents the ultimate triumph of their love over tragedy. Steffy is currently inside this beautiful church, meticulously preparing for a private, deeply emotional vow renewal. She is ready to look into her husband's eyes and promise him forever once again, solidifying their impenetrable bond against the darkness that constantly threatens to tear them apart. However, the universe has a notoriously cruel sense of humor when it comes to the sin marriage. Back in Los Angeles, a catastrophic chain of events was set into motion by a single, uncharacteristic moment of carelessness. Finn, a dedicated and brilliant physician, was unexpectedly delayed by a grueling, marathon surgery that forced him to miss his original flight to Europe. Desperate to join his wife and save their romantic getaway, Finn accepted the logistical help of his adoptive mother, Dr. Lee Finnegan. Lee, usually a meticulous and highly organized woman, successfully booked Finn on the very next commercial flight out of Los Angeles. But in the chaotic rush of her hospital duties, Lee made a fatal, devastating error. She hastily left Finn's complete travel itinerary exposed on the glowing screen of an open laptop in his office. This seemingly minor technological oversight provided the perfect, golden opportunity for a predator lurking in the shadows. Sheila Carter, a woman whose delusional obsession with her biological son knows no earthly bounds, had sneaked into Finn's office in a desperate, last-ditch effort to plead her case for family integration. Finding the room empty but the laptop open, Sheila's eyes locked onto the glowing flight details. A twisted, triumphant smirk spread across her face as her fractured mind interpreted this stolen information not as a coincidence, but as a divine sign. In her warped reality, destiny was calling her to Monaco. Without a second thought, Sheila booked her own ticket across the Atlantic, determined to crash Steffy and Finn's romantic vacation and violently force her way back into their lives. Back in the serene, quiet holiness of the Monaco church, Steffy stands near the altar, a vision of elegance and hopeful anticipation. She listens to the heavy, wooden doors of the sanctuary creak open, the sound echoing beautifully through the cavernous space. A warm, loving smile instantly illuminates her face as she turns, fully expecting to see her handsome, devoted husband walking down the aisle to sweep her into his arms. But the silhouette standing in the doorway does not belong to the man she loves. As the Mediterranean sunlight spills into the church, illuminating the intruder's face, Steffi's joyful smile instantly vanishes, replaced by a mask of sheer, unadulterated horror. Standing before her, holding the stolen flight itinerary like a twisted trophy, is her absolute worst nightmare, Sheila Carter. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of this villainess invading Steffi's sacred sanctuary is enough to make the air in the room turn to ice. Sheila has tracked them across the globe, crossing oceans and continents, proving once again that geographical distance offers absolutely no protection from her relentless, psychotic stalking. The juxtaposition of Sheila, a woman whose hands are stained with the blood of Steffi's family, standing in a holy place of worship, is a grotesque and terrifying visual that immediately sets the stage for an epic, volcanic confrontation. Steffi is initially paralyzed by the sheer impossibility of the situation. How could Sheila be here? How did she find them? The answers quickly become irrelevant as Sheila begins to speak, her voice echoing off the stone walls with a chilling, desperate sincerity. Sheila brandished the stolen itinerary, twistedly claiming that fate brought her to this church, that the universe itself is conspiring to bring their family together. She launches into a theatrical, highly manipulative monologue, aggressively insisting that she is a completely changed woman, that her love for Finn and Hayes is pure, and that Steffi must finally open her heart and allow her into their lives. To prove her so-called redemption, Sheila utilizes her most recent, calculated maneuver from Los Angeles. She weaponizes the fact that she has officially signed the divorce papers, legally freeing Deacon Sharp. In Sheila's delusional mind, abandoning the man who loved her to focus solely on her biological son is the ultimate proof of her sanity and her reformed nature. She presents this legal document as a peace offering, begging Steffi to see that she is no longer a threat, that she is simply a misunderstood mother yearning for a connection with her flesh and blood. But Steffi Forrester Finnegan is not a naive victim, and she sees right through the transparent, sickening manipulation. Steffi's initial shock rapidly morphs into a blinding, protective fury. She screams at Sheila, her voice shaking with a potent mixture of rage and terror, demanding that the psychopath leave the church immediately. Steffi fiercely reminds Sheila of the unforgivable atrocities she has committed, refusing to entertain even a single syllable of her twisted apologies. But Sheila, driven by a desperate, pathological need for acceptance, refuses to back down. In a move of ultimate, grotesque theatricality, Sheila drops heavily to her knees right in the middle of the sacred aisle. She clasps her hands together, tears streaming down her face, and begins to beg for forgiveness in the house of God, creating a deeply disturbing spectacle of faux repentance. The sight of Sheila Carter kneeling, crying, and begging triggers something dark, primal, and deeply traumatic within Steffi's psyche. The walls of the beautiful Monaco church suddenly begin to close in on her. The colorful light filtering through the stained glass distorts into the flashing red and blue sirens of an ambulance. The echoing silence of the sanctuary is violently replaced by the deafening, explosive echo of a gunshot in a dark, filthy Los Angeles alleyway. Steffi is no longer standing in a European paradise. She is back in that horrifying moment, watching Finn jump in front of a bullet meant for her, feeling the warm blood on her hands, hearing the flat line of the hospital monitors. Steffi is abruptly thrust into a severe, paralyzing post-traumatic stress disorder panic attack. Her breathing becomes shallow, rapid, and erratic as she gasps for air that suddenly feels too thick to inhale. Her entire body begins to tremble uncontrollably, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The sheer, overwhelming terror of being cornered by her attempted murderer in a foreign country, isolated and unprotected, completely shatters Steffi's usually unbreakable composure. She stumbles backward, clutching her chest, her eyes wide with a horrific, unblinking panic as Sheila continues to crawl toward her on her knees, her desperate pleas for forgiveness morphing into a suffocating, inescapable nightmare. It is at this exact, catastrophic moment that the heavy wooden doors of the church burst open for a second time. John Finn Finnegan, exhausted from his grueling surgery, jet-lagged from his hurried commercial flight, and desperate to finally hold his wife, rushes into the sanctuary. He expects to find a scene of romantic tranquility, a beautiful prelude to their vow renewal. Instead, he walks into a waking nightmare. The visual tableau before him is a scene of absolute, heartbreaking chaos that stops him dead in his tracks, freezing the blood in his veins. On one side of the aisle, his beautiful, strong, resilient wife is collapsing into a severe, hyperventilating panic attack, her face pale with a terror he has spent years trying to erase from her memory. On the other side, his biological mother is kneeling on the cold stone floor, sobbing uncontrollably, her hands raised in a desperate, pathetic gesture of supplication. Finn is instantly thrust into the most agonizing, impossible, and cruel dilemma of his entire existence. The Monaco trip that was supposed to save and reset their marriage has just become the ultimate, explosive testing ground for his loyalties, his vows, and his very soul. Finn's internal psychological conflict is a tempest of contradictory emotions and deeply ingrained traumas. On one hand, he is a devoted, fiercely protective husband who swore a sacred oath to love, honor, and defend Steffy against all threats. He knows, logically and medically, the profound depths of the trauma Sheila inflicted upon his wife. He sees Steffy gasping for air, broken and terrified, and every protective instinct in his body screams at him to rush to her side, to shield her, and to violently banish the monster who caused this pain. He recently promised Steffy absolute, unwavering loyalty, swearing that he would prioritize their family and keep Sheila away forever. On the other hand, Finn is an adopted child who spent his entire life yearning for a connection to his biological roots. He is a healer, a doctor who took an oath to save lives and find the humanity in everyone. Seeing the woman who gave birth to him kneeling in a church, crying genuine tears of desperation, and begging for a single ounce of grace, tugs violently at the unresolved, vulnerable strings of his heart. Finn has secretly harbored the dangerous, naive belief that Sheila is capable of change, that the love of a mother, however twisted, holds some inherent value. In this sacred place, surrounded by symbols of redemption and forgiveness, Sheila's theatrical display of remorse is a potent, intoxicating poison to Finn's better judgment. The cruelty of this choice cannot be overstated. Finn is forced to be the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner in a war between his chosen family and his bloodline. If he rushes to Steffy, wraps his arms around her, and coldly orders Sheila to leave and never return, he honors his marriage, vows, but effectively severs the biological cord forever, denying his mother the forgiveness she is begging for on holy ground. He would have to harden his heart to the sight of her tears, accepting once and for all that she is an irredeemable monster. But if Finn hesitates, if he takes even a single step towards Sheila, if he looks at her with even a fraction of an ounce of sympathy, if he attempts to calm her down or listen to her pleas before attending to his hyperventilating wife, he will commit the ultimate, unforgivable betrayal. Steffy is in the throes of a PTSD episode caused directly by the woman kneeling before them. If Finn shows Sheila any grace in this moment, Steffy will see it as a complete invalidation of her trauma, a shattering of his promise to protect her, and a definitive proof that he will always be vulnerable to Sheila's toxic manipulation. The stakes for the sin marriage have never been higher, and the tension in the Monaco church is thick enough to cut with a knife. Steffy's terrified, tear-filled eyes lock onto Finn, silently screaming for him to save her, to validate her fear, and to choose her. Sheila's desperate, red-rimmed eyes also lock onto Finn, pleading for a savior, for a son who will finally look past her sins and offer her a lifeline. Finn stands paralyzed in the center of the aisle, the weight of two very different, fiercely demanding loves crushing down on his shoulders. This brilliant, emotionally devastating narrative choice by the writers elevates the soap opera genre to a master class in psychological tension. By placing this horrific confrontation in Monte Carlo, the very site of their ultimate romantic triumph, the tragedy is magnified 100-fold. The church, a symbol of holy matrimony, becomes a battleground for the soul of their relationship. The irony that Lee Finnegan, the woman who raised Finn and despises Sheila, was the accidental conduit for this disaster adds a layer of tragic brilliance to the unfolding drama. As the echoes of Sheila's sobs and Steffi's ragged breathing fill the sanctuary, viewers are left on the absolute edge of their seats. Will Finn's medical instinct to comfort the crying woman on the floor override his duty as a husband? Will Steffi's panic attack force Finn to finally, permanently see Sheila as the lethal threat she truly is? Or will this impossible choice in the most sacred of places be the final, fatal blow that shatters the sin marriage beyond repair? The fallout from this Monaco nightmare will undoubtedly send shockwaves across the Atlantic, forever altering the landscape of the Forrester family and leaving fans breathlessly waiting for the next explosive episode.